Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. I move to adopt ordinance number 786, increasing the 2022 SWM service charges.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Okay, hearing no second, motion dies for lack of a second.
So if it's not too late, I'm prepared to second the motion because I do, for multiple reasons. And thank you, Maya, for sort of all the details on this, because I do think it's helpful for the community and obviously council to understand. But we have a failing infrastructure. We know that. And it's just going to take ongoing maintenance. And some of the creative things that I think our public works is doing, like dealing with Mosier Field and treating the untreated water and the daylighting of Miller Creek, they're valuable things for the community. They're valuable things for salmon. And we are, from a climate preparedness perspective, going to have to continue to invest in our stormwater infrastructure. So I support this motion.
Okay, so we had a motion, but we have to have a motion because we didn't have a motion. But we had a
motion. Councilmember.
I move the motion.
Go ahead, City Attorney.
I'm sorry. I've been checking once. I kind of got the sense that perhaps the council was considering whether it should reconsider its vote. I do not see in this situation that it's appropriate for the council to reconsider its vote essentially immediately after it has taken a vote, in the absence of there being, let's say, an error or misunderstanding or question about the count. The next meeting I believe the council is scheduled to have is the 18th, which is this Thursday. And that's specific as to the budget, I believe, if that's correct. No?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. I head shake. I was like, okay, if I'm wrong. That may provide an opportunity for this to be specifically noted, and for the council to be able to consider it and not have it essentially be a situation where you've taken a vote and then shortly thereafter essentially voted on the exact same thing and went in a different direction, in the absence of the reasons that are typically provided for in Robert's rules to reconsider a vote.
We didn't take a vote.
I think the initial, that's true that it wasn't a vote. There was a motion that no one seconded.
And I have just offered to second it.
I'm gonna let the City Attorney dig into a little bit of that, and I'll recognize Councilmember Schilling, and I'll recognize City Manager Wilson, and I'll come back and reconsider the motion through Councilmember Moore. Go ahead, Councilmember Schilling.
Yeah, I have a question, but on the topic of this parliamentary procedure, technically a motion didn't die because we were discussing the motion. We never stopped the discussion of the topic on the table. So we never moved on to another topic. We never voted to move on. So technically, Councilmember Moore's motion is the topic of discussion on the table. We did not vote to move on. We did not leave this discussion. This is the topic of discussion.
With respect, my recollection isn't exactly that. It appeared as though the motion was made, and then Mayor Mata asked if there was a second, and I believe he may have asked that. I know he asked it at least twice, and there was no second. And at that point, it appeared as though that motion died, and the council was prepared to move forward. And then there was a statement made, or an inquiry made by the finance or by staff, asking about the concern of this has to be addressed before the end of the month. So My concern is this. I mean, I understand what the council wants to do, and I certainly don't want to keep the council from doing it. I also don't want for the council to do something that procedurally raises a question where it could be later challenged as being procedurally improper. So it may be more clean to not attempt to essentially reopen or put this motion before the council again at the same meeting, rather than perhaps addressing that on the 18th, which would still be timely, I believe, for finance purposes, for budget purposes, but also not potentially have the council run afoul of a procedural requirement or limitation.
I could call that motion out of order, but I can also call a motion to reconsider. And if it's a majority of council, wouldn't that be appropriate under Robert's Rules of Order? City Attorney? So if I get a unanimous, then we're good to go. If I get a no, then we're gonna discuss until the next meeting.
If you have a unanimous consent, I do believe that you can have a motion to reconsider. But remember, a motion to reconsider a vote. And right now, what you're saying, in fact, Councilor Tasta said, is that there was no vote. It was simply the motion itself was never seconded. Exactly.
Yeah, died for the lack of a second. However, somebody can make a motion to reconsider. And if we get a majority of this council to say yes, then we go back to discussion on the motion, because now we can put a new motion on the floor. Okay, council. So here's where I'm at here with this. Okay, because we can have this discussion all night, and we have no order here. Okay, so now we've allowed a presentation to be done on why it's important, why it's not important, and so what I need direction from this council is whether we push it to the next meeting, which is going to be the Thursday, which is part of the budget cycle, or we make a motion to reconsider the motion that died for the lack of a second, and then we create another motion to have this discussion, to continue the discussion on this subject. So those are the options here, council. So we can, because I need direction here to set the meeting back in order. Go ahead, Councilmember Moore.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe a motion to reconsider is only applicable to a motion that's been voted on already.
Motion died for lack of a second. So I brought the motion. I asked 2 times, is there a second? There was no second. I asked.
Right.
So the motion died for lack of second. It didn't get discussed, but it died for a lack of second. So if we're going to reconsider it under the minutes, then we need to take a vote for it to see if it's still going to lack for a second. I don't know. So we can either have a discussion to bring this to the next meeting where we'll be talking about the budget, which is Thursday. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm going to recommend that the council move this to Thursday. I believe it is cleaner procedurally, and especially with something that's related to your budget. You do not want to have a situation where potentially there's a claim that the action that you took was actually unlawful or not valid.
Okay, council. So you've heard the city attorney. You've heard my position on this particular issue. So I'll take a motion from any council member so we can move this meeting forward.